Maltby, shot, save, wild rebound. Do you believe it? Hat trick, Darren McCarty.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Gabriel in the end zone. Touchdown!
BUSTradio. Hello and welcome. It is the night of September 24th, and we are back on BUSTradio, third episode. I am joined in studio, as always, with Thomas Stebert. Tommy.
Good evening.
Good to have you here. And returning from his week of absence, Andrew Bellamy.
Great to be back, B-Rat. Thank you.
It's great to have you back. So tonight's episode, we are going to maybe try a couple new things. Maybe try to talk some golf as requested by Steady Letty, friend of the show.
Thanks, Mikey.
Also, we're going to have extended NFL talk, maybe a call in on that, and of course our writer update. J-Bone is coming back. He brought a lot of energy to the conversation last week, and we enjoyed that, so we will have him back. But first things off, a few mentions to... Well, I'd like to mention all the boys who first retweeted us. Brett, LL306, Steady Letty, Suju. That's First Base Buddha, actually, and Carter Smith. They were all requested. And they all retweeted us. And a celebrity shout-out retweet to Rider quarterback Darian Durant, who, on request, retweeted BUSTradio. So, Darian, we just like to say we really appreciate that. You don't have to do that when you're in a city like Regina, but the fact that you do is why we love you, and more than happy to have you as our quarterback. Great win last week.
Thank you, Darian.
Thanks, Derek. Alrighty, so now I'm just going to mention that last week we said the contest was going to have a rant session, but we didn't do that. We didn't take care of that this week, so Tommy D's lined up for a 5-minute rant and rage, which he will do next week. But anyway, first segment, I'm going to ask the boys some hypotheticals. We bumped that up in the program for no particular reason. But anyway, here we go, boys. Who would you rather be? Bill Buckner, Pete Rose, or Barry Bonds? So now we all know Buckner, the classic Red Sox, blew it for them in whatever year, the 80s. Rose, bet on baseball, got kicked out, his name dragged through the dirt.
And then some.
Or Barry Bonds, accused steroid user. I don't think he was ever caught, but I think it's fairly obvious.
Goes without saying.
Yeah. I'd have to go with your boy Buckner, just because, if my memory serves me correctly, he did win a World Series eventually with the Yankees.
I did not know that.
As always,
Get
quite
the fact checkers
uninformed,
on that,
but if you care to look into that, I think that's what happened, so I'll have to be your boy Buckner.
Pretty impressive for our show. Drew, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Buckner as well. If I can reference a documentary I once saw about it, if you go back to that series and you watch the games, people often pinpoint that as the point where the Red Sox met their demise. But earlier on, things that were going on in the games, and actually a game before that, they had opportunities that they squandered. So to put it squarely on his shoulders just doesn't seem right.
So Buckner. And what about after that? Rose or Bonds?
I think I gotta go Rose, because let's say he bets on baseball. I think that's... I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of all of that, but...
It's not as much of a tarnish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're betting on your team, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it went?
I don't think
believe
so.
he's betting
I don't
Bet
think
on
he-
his own team?
I don't think he ever bet for his team to lose.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
But he's also, apparently, he's never admitted that he's even betting.
We've all seen that interview.
Didn't
Right.
he come out, though, later and admit that he did bet on baseball?
Huh?
We'll get a fact check.
Check that.
Come back to you on that next week. I thought I remember him coming out and admitting it. Anyway, next question. Would you rather be this could go for any of the major sports. Would you rather be a player for like maybe a 5-year career, a coach for a few years, maybe you get a few different gigs, or would you rather be the GM of a team? I think personally I'd want to be the GM if I could choose between the three of those. You call in the shots.
Mm-hmm.
You could stay there for you could have a 20-year career as a GM.
Really mold a franchise.
Yeah, and really put your mark on the entire league by what you do.
I wonder for guys who have been on the ice and upstairs for separate championships. I wonder how they compare. You have to think that the guys that there's nothing would beat playing.
Being on the ice.
Yeah,
True. But I'm gonna venture to guess that it's gonna be a different type of satisfaction you're gonna win or you're gonna get. I imagine lots of the guys upstairs, as excited as they are, it's almost as much of a relief as anything else. You know, your job is safe for another.
It's your job.
Yeah,
5 years. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a really pressure packed. And the coaches even more so in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they gotta win or they just get fired. That would be a stressful job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
GMs to the same extent, players to the same extent.
And the amount of your life that you dedicate as a GM, maybe that would, a player dedicates quite a bit of time as well. But.
Yeah. All right, next question. Alrighty, I got a couple here. We're gonna go with this one. What if you could play one sport? You guys, we probably already know what we'd pick for that sport. What sport would it be, and what era would it be in? Would you play in the modern day? Would you play baseball in the 20s with Babe Ruth? Maybe New York Giants in the 80s, football. You're doing Yale on the sidelines, so they say. What do you think?
I think if I were to do it, I'd do it in modern day, and I would be in the UFC. I look at a guy like George. Yeah, I'm sure that's not, some people would be surprised, but
It's off the board.
just if I could have a career similar to that of George St. Pierre, I would take it in a heartbeat. I look up to that guy in every way possible, so I'd definitely be a UFC fighter in the modern day if I had talent.
And Tommy, what about you?
Yeah, you'd have to have that talent. I think it'd be nice to have been an all-star in the 80s, early 90s, and just where you're afforded that protection by sort of the bangers and the tough guys.
Are you talking
NHL?
NHL, an NHL, and that's where I'd like to be. That's a good question.
Yeah, I think I would bring it back to maybe NHL in the 90s or the 80s even, where you got a fridge full of beer. You don't have to be in that great a shape, You can join the ball team in the summer and take a summer off, whereas now you'd have to. That's a year commitment. If you're not training, you're falling behind, and that's it. So I think I'd go back then. Back when the rules were a little looser, people didn't care as much.
Yeah, there wasn't 1,000 cameras on you at all times.
Yeah, exactly, and you get a DUI. You have a good laugh about it. You move on. Anyway, boys.
No one even hears about it.
Who was that one rider we said he got a DUI in Atlanta, and they're talking about it up in Regina? How do you even find that out?
Willis, yeah.
Willis, yeah.
But yeah, if you take that 20 years ago, maybe it gets mentioned because he wasn't there for a portion of
right.
training camp, but would it be blown up to the extent that it is today? No, you'd probably read it in the paper, but you wouldn't see it. Obviously, the internet, you're not going to read it there.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss a lot of people finding out about it just that way.
Yeah. Alrighty, good stuff. So that was random sports questions. We'll come back with a quiz at the end of the episode. And on the other side, we're going to talk a little NFL football.